If you have ever used programs like Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, you may feel familiar with this type of curves already. When you move the cursor while using the pen tool, you can see that there is this form of curves that seem to have a third invisible point, seems to act as gravity. Bezier curves were originated by the French engineer Pierre Bezier, and it was originally created with the purpose of modeling and drawing cars. The idea behind Bezier curves is relatively simple. Let's start with three different points that project to different lines. I have called the first 2 points A and B, and there is a third point called G that joins them both with an effect that could be considered as gravity. Imagine that the point A and B are only one segment, and then there is a third point that emerges and then drags them down. So that's why I call them gravity. Let's start by drawing a dot somewhere in this line. From the segment A to G, we can divide the line into a given number of segments. Let's say that n is equal to 100. Think about these segments as representing the percentage of completion of a dot traveling from the point A, which is the origin, to its destination, which is point G. Once we enter the iteration 100, the point should finally reach this point G. So it seems that we need a variable named t. Suppose that t is 2. So at point t equals 2, we are going to find the dot here in the line A. And if we apply the same logic from the point G to the point B, we're going to have an equivalent distance that is projected from the origin G towards the point B. And here's where things get interesting. If we join these two dots with an additional line, we can repeat the process. We could take the distance that represents the amount of time t, which is equal to 2, and we can draw a dot as well. The last thing we need to do is to join all of the points that this last dot has created, sort of like using this dot as a tracer that will allow us to project a new line. And that line will be our Bezier curve. This is known as the quadratic Bezier curve. Before we implement this using Pym and Python, let me show you an animation. Here we can see a little better what is going on. The point A towards the point G projects a dot, same as from the point G to the point B. And the dot that is projected between these new points is used to project the final line. Let's now move to the implementation.